twice, or you are twice anti, you will be in prison. You're not allowed to. They're antidepressant group. Straight up.
빠니 당근 치즈
It's Radio Myth, episode 74. And this week, since we ended on some death metal last week, we're going to look at some more death metal. Now, when I say the word Finnish death metal, what comes to mind?
Look, big sunglasses, not emperor sunglasses, big sunglasses. Very important. Always big sunglasses, cool band.
Actually, that guy's Norwegian, but what you were probably meaning to say was you either think of melodic stuff like Sentenced and Scum and such, or else you think of the really cavernous, brutal shit like Demigod, Adramelech, etc., etc. You know, the funebres of the world, if you will. However, the original Finnish death metal stuff was actually very influenced by Carcass, and it was started off by Xysma, who initially sounded like this. Apparently, Xysma, XYSMA, is some sort of Finnish abbreviation that translates out to membranous strands in the feces. Yuck! And that makes sense because they are one of the original gore grind bands. This demo is from like 1989. And it's very groovy for grindcore until stuff like this happens. So yeah, this is grindcore. I hope you enjoy it. But what sets them apart is their ability to throw in those groovier riffs and have a bit of a psychedelic thing going on with how prominent the bass is and they use a lot of like chorus effects and such to give everything a weird feel. So those of you who are metal historians realize that Carcass always had a bit of a sense of humor to them, and later on went into more complex and rock-influenced territory. Xysma kind of followed them, but they did it in their own unique way that influenced a lot of the later Finnish stuff. The best way to see this is to listen to their first two albums, where they have a song called Uranus Falls, so haha Uranus, that's already funny, but it's about like planets and space and shit. And then on their second album they have a song called Uranus Falls Again, where they recapitulate themes from that initial song. So let's listen to both of them in sequence to see how Xysma evolves. So this is like 2 years after that demo, and they're already incorporating acoustic guitars and spacey atmospheres. This album, I think, is like 1990, and it was very influential, but no one talks about Xysma anymore for some reason. Perhaps they're a bit too strange for today's modern-day death metal scene. Wow, check out that Sunlight Studios production, very entombed, but with these melancholic melodic riffs. But what happens when you throw a couple extra years of experience, drug abuse, and general silliness into the mix? This does. The music gets a bit more technical, but also more punk influenced. Quite a bit of hard rock thrown in there, and some dank Sega Genesis keyboards. That's that melody from that initial song being brought back with a Moog synthesizer that gives me some serious Sonic the Hedgehog vibes. Alright, now we're talking. Later on, these guys actually went into some 60s garage rock type shit, similar to what Nick Anderson did after he left Entombed. So similar wavelengths in terms of musical development between those two. And in fact, they were in contact with each other. One of the main guys in Xysma was also in a band called Disgrace that started out as very doomy death metal, but by the time they got around to doing their first album, Grey Misery, this Disgrace band went in some very, very, very strange realms, combining very bestial grindcore with 70s hard rock in a very progressive rock-esque manner, but at the same time it's all very messy and loud. I never hear anybody talk about this album. I don't think anybody knew what to make of it at the time, and still today people are very confused by it. I told you it was grindcore. That's that good shit. Very messy and noisy. I like it. How's that for a transition? Into some very brutal riffs reminiscent of Dominus, if you remember that episode. In fact, these guys had a similar developmental trajectory to Dominus. Because they started out as very dark and brutal like this, and then later on they turned into sort of like a weird punk rock / cowboy band. So they replicated the whole Dominus into Volbeat cycle, interestingly enough. But this is my favorite album from them, because I'm a death metal dork. They go into some very strange macrocosmic atmospheres later on this record. Oh man, check out those weird technical riffs. And that bizarre, bouncy rubber band bass. Very technical, disharmonic orchestra-esque, if you will. And then a very Viking metal style of breakdown, which I, of course, appreciate. This album is relatively easily obtained. It was reissued by Extreme Records, and I think also Displeased at one point. So, you know, the 1992 original is very hard to find. But, the reissues are still out there, and they include lots of bonus tracks from the demos and such. Highly recommended. Go check that out. Probably find it on Discogs. Oh, that's cool stuff. Look at that drum roll. Back into the breakdown. Sadly, Tony Stranius, the main songwriter for Xysma and Disgrace, died in 2006, I think, from a heart attack. That might be part of why nobody talks about these bands anymore. Like, they're not really around for reunions. However, one band that did take a lot of influence from both Xysma and Disgrace and their unique take on the Carcass evolution was Mordicus, who incorporated a lot of epic melody, very strange ideology based around Greek mythology and weird outer space shit. They have like songs called Cosmokratos of Tartaros and blah blah blah. I don't know, they're nuts. They're good though. So you can tell they're good from the first notes of the first and only album they ever did, entitled Dances from Left. This is I Bleed to See. And we're gonna see how they can develop a melody. So that initial just da-na-na. They go through so many different variations of it in a very orchestral build-up into some more melodic stuff. This is still very much death metal, and in fact, this was the initial style of Finnish death metal, this weird, rock-influenced melodic stuff. But nobody really talks about it anymore. I'm hoping, you know, since they love reviving different styles of metal so much, maybe somebody will bring this kind of stuff back someday. It'd be nice. I like that little Bathory solo they did there too. That was kind of cool. But of course it has to get heavier. I like the jazzy percussion too. There's so many cool things going on in this album. Everything is so dense, blah 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 blah. Yeah, boy. Drumming and the bass rhythm section are amazing. Amazing. I'm just waiting for this crazy solo that's about to happen. Once we get through some more interesting layers on that initial melody. I told you it was crazy. Funnily enough, this album is completely unnoticed, but it was reissued by Extreme XTREEM from Spain in the early aughts, so thank you for that. Later on, over the course of the album, we get into much more dissonant death metal stuff and even an incorporation of some black metal tremolo picking. This kind of arpeggiated, searching melody was a big thing that Sentenced did as well, but they took it in a very different direction than Mordicus does. However, if you enjoy early Sentenced, you'll probably dig Mordicus a lot. I know I do. I really love the production on this album, too. Even the weird kind of pick scrape noise that comes up every so often adds to the atmosphere quite a bit, I think. Very neon-colored, if you've got the synesthesia thing going. These crazy solos. That's another Carcassism they picked up on, was the very individualized solos. And here we get some black metal, double bass, and melodic tremolo guitar, but rather than having an evil melody, it's more kind of melancholic and soulful. And back into that foreboding lead guitar stuff that I love so much. Oh, you know, it's still a death metal band, dude. You gotta have that kind of shit going on. The end of this particular song also features a very strange breakdown type thing that I enjoy quite a bit. Oh man, check out those Death Leprosy style tremolo riffs. And then we get into the breakdown.
I got the floor.
Funny, funny. Funny, funny. Funny, funny. Funny, funny.
I don't know who could be putting in these funny sound effects. And some very disgusting, twisted lead guitar leading us out of the song. There's a couple times Carcass did something very similar. However, they did it in the same year as these guys, so I don't even really think it's a ripoff. I think they were just both on a similar wavelength, if you know what I mean, man. So that does it for Xysma, Mordicus, and Disgrace. 3 bands that should be a lot more familiar given their very important position in the initial Finnish death metal scene, but alas, they have been forgotten. Hopefully this little segment will do something to change that, and maybe more people will start taking influence from these bands when they write newer music. So until next week, this has been Radio Free Innsbruck. Whoa.
DJ, drop it.
I'm gonna say the N-word.